On the left-hand side of Brownlow Hill, I can quite remember it just like yesterday. A woman opened the door. I mean, they were all white women. There were no black women in those days. So my friend and I ran around the corner into the hallway, and we found the door open. We came in, the woman shut the door, and we went upstairs. They made us a cup of tea while she looked through the window to see if everything is all right. And it wasn't long after when she said, okay, you can go now. Now, she saved our lives.
Lives were lost in the riots. Charles Wootton, a young Liverpool seaman, was chased by a mob 200 strong. They threw him into the Queen's Dock and hurled stones at him until he drowned. During the Second World War, racism in Britain appeared to wane. There was a warm welcome for the people of the Caribbean who'd responded to the call to fight fascism. While they were seen as temporary visitors, any displays of overt racism were greeted with repugnance. But it was not to last. When America joined the war in 1942, West Indian soldiers were caught up in a political battle based on prejudice.
So that really was the difference I found out, the war and peace. And then they'll come back during the war, they say, oh, colored gentlemen come to help us. After the war, they say, why don't you go home?
I think things changes sometime in the late 40s and 50s, more or less in the early 50s, when a lot of people started to come over. You know, and then people found that they think that they're coming to take their jobs. So then it started to change, gradually it began to change, and then it get out of hand.
Colored people, if you ask me, after the experiences I've had of them, I've had my belly full of them, I can tell you. If you ask me what should be done with them, I'll tell you now.
The mood of hatred stirred one of the first of the youth cults, the Teddy Boys.
There was a crowd of Teddy Boys. Those days the Teddy Boys wear these zoot trousers and all. Had girls with them too, but they were the big news, you know. They used to beat up people and all that, and some black people who were known to have beat up badly and so on. So I was met with this crowd of people in the dark. I don't know if you know Charing Cross Road. In the best of times, those days it was even worse. I said, Lord have mercy. I felt to sink. Anyhow, they come and they gathered round me, and one of them said words, if I don't remember the words, let's get him or something like that. Well, let's get the black so-and-so. And they started housing me round, and I started hitting out one time. So I pulled off one of my moccasins and started hitting them up. But what is a moccasin shoe? Anyhow, it kept them off. But when I saw that they would have got the happen on me, I took off and left my shoe. One shoe went up and gone. And they ran me from down to the bottom of Charing Cross Road, up to Tottenham Court Crossroad. The taxis were by the Dominion taxi, and there were two taxis standing there. So I ran and jumped in the taxi. So I was like, but these feet saved me. I ran like anything else, man.
In 1956, the Suez Crisis led to oil shortages, queues for petrol, and a minor economic recession. By 1958, 500,000 people were out of work, and black people bore the brunt of the blame.
When we came here first in the 50s, we were all individual from different islands, you know. Jamaican was a Jamaican individual, Trinidadian was Barbadian, was African was, you know, we was all individual. But when the 1958 riot started, we found that they didn't specialize who they say they attack. They attack Jamaicans, anybody, while you're black. So we found that we can only unite by getting together and cut out the individualism. So then we all united then and decided to stand together and fight. And that's what caused us to get together, that riot in 1958.
It's the 25th of August. I was keeping a dance in Bletchley Street. While we were there, I heard like a swarm of bees coming along the road. And I went upstairs, opened the door and looked out, and I saw this crowd coming along with the police in front. And then they stopped by the house where the party was keeping. And the police came, talked to me. He's asked me to stop the music, so I says, why? He says, well, these people is in for trouble. So I said, well, we're enjoying ourselves. We're not making any trouble with anyone. And in saying that, start to hear brick and iron and all those things start come through the windows. The next morning, race riots started.
The riots came about being Swaziwell Mosley from the Unionist Party, who defended Hitler, and he was a fascist, a stinking fascist at that too, was a candidate for North Kensington.
He's a jolly good fellow, he's a jolly good fellow, and so say all of us, and so say all of us.
When Swaziwell came out with the idea that North Kensington must be kept white, that was a challenge thrown before us. When we came here, we only looking a work and a shelter over one's head.
You see, we had was to protect our women folks, because they would just see a black woman walking down the street and box her down.
It did affect me emotionally, mentally. It did trouble me a little, you know, because I don't know when they're going to strike and we're going to strike. So that's the point that worries me. And plus, my wife was here, and then I was, you know, I was quite worried sometimes when I go to work and leave her.
We use the same methods that they were using. They bring violence, so we go to it with violence. And then the police comes in, and we couldn't walk 2 or 3 of us together. If we do, we're going to get stopped and searched. And such like, well, it lasts for about a week. Not straight on in the fashion in which it started, but little by little until it just phases out.
I'll say this now, it started in Little Rock in America, but when we actually saw it came to us here in Notting Hill, we realize now that, well, if you mean business, let us go to business.
Our headquarters was number 9 Blenheim%. And we get all our Molotov cocktail bombs and things like that ready there.
When I look out through the window, I saw them, a multitude of people, and they says what? Let's lynch the niggers. Let's burn the niggers. And from that word was mentioned, only said Molotov cocktail bombs coming left, right, and center. And they started to panic. And with that panic, the gate of number 9 was open. And I says, boy, throw them back where they are coming from, which we did.
Nationally, the reaction was outrage at the violence rather than the racism. The courts were lenient with many of the youths who'd roamed the streets nigger hunting. But there were exceptions. At the Old Bailey, Justice Salmon jailed 9 men for 4 years each. He told them, everyone, irrespective of the color of their skin, is entitled to walk through our streets erect and free from fear.
Norman Manley came over here during that period, Chief Minister of Jamaica, to put things right with us. So there and then, we made it our business to see Manley as our Chief Minister. So I told Manley, I says, well, I'd like you to take a fact-finding